Our last session today, we have building a custom AI agent and how ColdFusion can interact with it. So please welcome Monte Chan. Over to you, Monte.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi, welcome everyone to my session. Before I begin, I am kind of getting over I still have a remnant of some bad cough. So for the most part, I should be able to talk without coughing. But if I do, please excuse me. And I was told that I can't really do a poll on my own, but how many of you actually attended my session on the same topic in Las Vegas last year? You can just say in the chat, say yes or something. Interesting. I guess not many. So that's a good thing. So I actually, for some reason, when I have the PowerPoint on, I cannot see the, oh, actually some. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. And so I actually joined on another computer too, just so I can see the chat and different things, because when PowerPoint is on, somehow I cannot see anything. Okay, so what happened is in Las Vegas, after I did the presentation, I said that I would put up some kind of some version of the same presentation on YouTube. But then I was told that maybe about a month after that, I was approached by Adobe to do this online version. So I thought if I put that online, then you guys wouldn't need to come right now. So I kind of postponed that till maybe after this. Then I will give some version of that on YouTube. So what we're going to do today, we will do a somewhat high level of talking over the code. But prior to getting to the code, we'll talk about certain terminologies. And then so in the YouTube versions, then in the code, I will get to a little bit more details on how to set certain things up. But at the end of this session, I will do to actually kick off that custom AI agent and show you how ColdFusion can interact with it. Okay, without further ado. So what happened is starting at the end of, say, 2024, or actually before that. So who am I? Some of you may ask. My name is Monte Chan. I am a senior ColdFusion developer at CF Web Tools. I've used ColdFusion since version 4.5 back in 1999. And I have a YouTube channel. And you see on the screen there, that's youtube.com @geektalk2004. 2004, just a random number that YouTube added to that to make my channel unique. It doesn't mean that I had that channel since year 2004. I am on different social media platform. Most of the time I'm on Facebook. You're more than welcome to add me on Facebook, but please, when you do, let me know how you found me, because there are quite a few people that I don't know and try to add me. So I try to add only people that I know. And you're also welcome to email me at monty@montyandjanice.chan.com. But you may have a much quicker response if you were to send me a message on Facebook Messenger. Okay, the presentation slides will be uploaded, and actually they are already uploaded to my GitHub account. You can find that on github.com/knittingguy. And yes, I do knit. So if you go to my GitHub account, GitHub/editing guy, you will find two repo. One is called MongoDB-LangChain. That's where you will find the agent codes, and you will also find the PPTX. That's the PowerPoint. That's the same PowerPoint that I'm using now, in case you want to view it. And there's also another repo that's called AI agent underscore CF. And this is where you'll find the ColdFusion code that will be used today in this session. I just updated the AI agent one about an hour ago, so everything should be up to date. Whatever you see here should be already be there. Okay. And as indicated here too, so these are the direct link to those two repositories that I just mentioned. So starting in the end of 2024, I saw a lot of ads or a lot of pages that talk about how powerful the AI agents are. You can do this, you can do that with the agents. And that got me curious. I don't want to be bounded by what the agents allowed me to do. What can I do to create my own agents? So then I get to decide how the agents should behave and what the agents can do. And so that started my journey in looking for how to build an AI agent on my own. And when I looked at that, when I looked at the resources and did a lot of searches and all that, I found that a lot of the materials are actually done in Python. That's probably because the machine learning or artificial intelligence project originated from the Python world. However, as a web developer or as a ColdFusion developer, Python is not something that comes naturally to be one of the skills that we acquire in our career. However, JavaScript, or I'm using the term rather loosely, or TypeScript or JavaScript, JavaScript is something that a lot of us should already know. So, so the session today will be creating an AI agent using JavaScript. So this will be a little sharing of my little journey of creating an AI agent. So hopefully after this session, you will find that creating an AI agent is not as daunting or as difficult as it may seem. And by no means am I saying that this is the only way of creating an AI agent. Hopefully, I mean, there are plenty of ways of creating an AI agent, but hopefully by the end of this session, whatever I've shown you guys will get you curious enough to explore the rest on your own. As I was searching for different ways of creating an AI agent, one of the frameworks that I found in creating an AI agent, supposedly that is somewhat popular, is called LangChain. So LangChain is a framework of basically chaining the tools. The tools are basically functions to do certain to maybe do a search or to call somewhat of an action function to do something. And so you can link all these actions together to form somewhat like a chain. And there came the name LangChain. And LangChain was created by, so if you go to langchain.com, you will find more information on LangChain. And so with LangChain framework, that will give you a quick start on creating your own AI applications or AI agents. So now then the question is, what's the difference between an AI application or an AI agent? An AI agent implies some kind of autonomy, meaning that there's some kind of decision making without a constant human intervention. Whereas AI applications, it may or may not have any decision making whatsoever. And in LangChain is an open source technology. So basically, you have a start node, and then we'll go to a process, doing some kind of tools or some kind of processes, whatever you choose to do in your AI application or AI agent. And then after that, that will come to an end node. And LangChain, after then later on, they created this thing called LangGraph, which is another framework that built on top of LangChain. LangChain, when you create an AI agent, there's something called a state. A state is essentially the memory of your agent. Let's say in a chatbot type of agent, the state would basically keep track of all the messages that have been said by the human or by the systems. I remember many years ago, I believe it was Adam Sandler who had made a movie by the name of 51st States, in which I believe Drew Barrymore played a character who has suffered some kind of brain injury. All she can remember is the event of, prior to, she remembered everything up to the point when she had that whatever accident. And after that, she only has the memory of that one day. The moment she goes to sleep and wake up the next day, she simply does not remember anything that happened the day before. When you're dealing with an AI agent, you would be rather frustrated to deal with an agent who have no idea what had just happened. So you would want to keep the state to remember all the messages and all the things in the history. And for LangChain, this framework, the state would need to be maintained on your own. It has that functionality, but you would need to keep track of the state on your own. Whereas LangGraph actually has a class dedicated to the state. And with that, then you can actually build something a lot more complex agent. So for example, in this graph, so LangGraph basically is, instead of a chain, it is presenting the whole agent as a graph, somewhat like what you're seeing now. The same way you have a start node, and then you have some kind of like a decision agent to decide where to go. In this case, let's say this agent 1, agent 2, agent 3, or I'm just listing 3, but virtually you can have as many as you want in this layer. And some of these themselves can also be an agent or some kind of processes that are not agent. And if you do, and all these can be all triggered simultaneously or just one at a time. And so, like I said, you can have virtually unlimited agents or processes going on. And if you do have all these things going on, then at the end, there will be some kind of aggregator that would collect the responses coming back from all these agents or processes to form one big glob of data or something and return back to wherever that is calling the agent. And when you deal with an agent, you will need to use something called LLM, which is large language model. There are a couple problems with a large language model. Yes, LLM is being trained, but regardless how frequently it is being trained, at any given moment, whatever data simply is not available from the time it was last trained to the time that you are using that LLM. The LLM simply has no idea what happened in that time period. And also, yes, it only knows the data being trained on. There's something that may be specific to you, to your organization. The LLM simply has no idea what your data is. And LLM, when LLM cannot find certain things, and then LLM tend to make things up on its own, and that's when the hallucination comes in. Is basically LLM making things up that is not necessarily true. And so to prevent hallucination from happening, there's something called RAG, which is that's RAG. It stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So basically, before returning the result back to the client, it would call, say, a database, make some API calls or some external resources to get some more authoritative knowledge first, and then combine with the LLM before to form a more correct response, and then send it back to the client. So what do we need for this example that we are doing? So we'll need Node and NPM, and then we need a vector database. In this case, it's MongoDB Atlas. And if you go to, that's one of the links here. And so if you go to that link, it will show you all the vector stores that it currently supports. So for example, AstraDB, Zion Edge SQL, and so on and so forth. And so at the top left here, you can pick how you want to implement your AI agent. If for those of you, in case you do want to create that in Python, you can click Python, and then the information will be shown according to your selection here. But for now, we are doing TypeScript. And so since we're using MongoDB Atlas, you can click on that, and it tells you how you can incorporate the MongoDB in your codes. And then in addition to that, you will need an OpenAI API key, Anthropic API key, and of course, our beloved ColdFusion. In my case, I am using an OpenAI model and also Anthropic Anthropic LLM model. In your case, you can use basically any LLM model. It really doesn't matter. But for example, I'm just happen to be using these two. For the OpenAI and the Anthropic AI, the API, Anthropic API keys. To my knowledge, the OpenAI API key now they don't support a free tier per se. You do need to put a credit card on file in order for that API call to work. And for the Anthropic, I believe it's the same thing. You do need a credit card on file as well. And the API keys are only available when you first generate them. And so when it first comes up, then you need to write it down somewhere. But if somehow you forget to write it down somewhere, and then you go back to the dashboard of the respective dashboard to view your API keys, you simply won't be able to use view the old key. So if you forget, then basically you will need to regenerate a new one, and then the old one would become invalid. So if you happen to be using an old API key and you don't know what it is, then you will need to update the old one to the new ones. And so basically we'll start by initializing to create a new project. And then in this case, we are using Express. So basically we'll start up a server. So then ColdFusion can communicate with. And here are all the libraries that we'll be using. Of course, in addition to LangChain, LangGraph, and MongoDB, we will be also using Anthropic. The .env that give you the environment variable that you can store the API keys and different things. And that is what we will be using because for the AI agent to work, we'll need to have some data. So that we'll be using that to create the database schema, and then we'll use one of the LLM models to actually populate the MongoDB database for us. Okay. Sorry. Oh, there you go. Okay. So this is called seed database TS. This is where I'm populating the database. Okay, so as I had mentioned, also in this case, I'm using GPT-4o mini. The temperature there means how creative you want your results to be. Usually is a number between 0 and 1. 0 means that it's rather conservative, 1 being somewhat creative. So depending what you're trying to do, you will set the temperature to be anywhere from 0 to 1. In this case, since we want to populate the database, it really doesn't matter, but I want that to be a little bit creative. So I set that to 0.7. And again, the model, you can use any model, doesn't matter. In this case, I just happen to be using this one, the GPT-4o mini. And this is the employee schema. So basically what we are doing is creating an HR database. And the agent will basically look at the employees that are currently in this HR database and to find any knowledge gap that we may, any talent gaps that we may need in order to create an iOS applications. And so it has the employee ID, first name, last name, date of birth, and so on and so forth. I know it's rather complex just to be an example, but just to show you that as to populate the database, an LM is more than capable of populating some things somewhat complicated. And then we'll have a prompt. So we'll tell the LLM that, hey, you are a helpful assistant. Please generate these employee data, and these will just generate 10 fictional employee records. Okay, and these are the fields that we need. So it should have the employee ID, first name, blah, 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 so on and so forth. Okay. And then, so after doing all that, then we'll define the index name, the embedded text, and the embedding. So once it's created, so basically, so once it's created, then you should see something like this here. So I have the HR underscore database. This is the name of the collection. and this is a quote unquote table, if you will. This is the employees table. So these are all the stuff generated by calling the LLM. In my YouTube video, I will show you more details on the steps to actually generate all these data in this table. But for now, um, so basically these are all the stuff created. The embedding, this 1536, this is the dimension. When it comes to the vector database, so basically you're searching for proximity. And so these are the dimensions that that it will compare on. Okay. And also in here I have defined the index name and all that. In the YouTube video, I will actually talk about how you can create this index in the MongoDB as well. And for the MongoDB, they have a free tier, and so you should be able to, I guess, at least for me, I can use this free tier. I don't need to pay anything for as far as MongoDB is concerned, but I do need to pay something for calling the Anthropic API and also calling the OpenAI API altogether, just for generating all these, and also using the AI agents. I believe I only pay a little bit less than $1, so that should not be something that would break your bank. Okay, so after that, then after you have set up your MongoDB and getting the API key and all that, then you can save all these in this .m file. I have included this .m file in the MongoDB LangChain repository. You will need to put in the API key values and also the URI value on your own. Obviously, I'm not going to show you mine for security reason. And so let's go through the index.ts. So basically in here, I'm starting this Express server, which I will start that a little later on. And then I have this Mongo client, which connects to the Mongo Atlas database. This is the URI that is coming from my .m file. So basically, I am connecting to the Mongo DB Atlas database. And then I have a couple endpoints set up, so then the ColdFusion code can call. One is called /chat. This will be basically starting the whole conversation. And then after that, just to show you that the state is actually there, I can recall a particular thread without calling the entire agent all over again. So I have two endpoints here. One is to call the whole thing, and one is to call up a specific thread. Okay. And then in the agents.ts, that is where most of the magic happens. Okay, so again, this call agent, so basically it's a call to the agent. And so I'm so basically every time the agent would look at the database to see what employees we have available. And so we are connecting, so we have the connecting properties. The DB name is HR underscore database, and the collection, or somewhat equivalent to tables, if you will, that would be called employees. And so this is the state. I'm storing the messages basically is in somewhat like an array. Uh, in this case, the messages, using that as an array, that makes sense for what we want to do. But in reality, the state does not have to be an array. It can actually be any data type that you want. So basically, you just need something to store the history of whatever happened in your agent. And in this case, since I'm building a chatbot, so it's just an array of messages. But so in case your need change, you can also change the data type and how you want to store the history on your own. So every time when it makes a call, I'm actually doing a console log to show that employee lookup tool call, so you can see that the agents are actually being called. Okay, and then so again, the tools, basically a tool node is something, an action being performed. So in this case, it is like looking at the database to fetch the employee data. And for this one though, for the decision making portion, this one I'm using Anthropic. Again, this is just an example. In your case, if you want to use something different, that is entirely up to you. But in case some of you might have attended my Las Vegas session, in my sessions over there, I was actually using an older model. I believe it was Claude 3.5. So, but Claude 3.5 is no longer available. So I had to update that to a newer model that's Sonnet 4.5. And probably because of the newer model, the difference, it requires different parameters. Before that, when I was in Las Vegas, that session, I was using something called temperature. But with the newer model, it takes something called top P. You can look online to see basically it's the difference between the temperature and top P. The top P is basically the tokens. Essentially, it works almost the same way as temperature. And but in this case, for some reason, it cannot take both top P and temperature simultaneously. Although theoretically speaking, they serve different purposes. But so in this case, I just decided to use top P, and 0.9 being something that is more broad. So in a sense, it's more quote unquote more creative, whereas one would be more conservative. But since in this case, if you just leave the temperature attribute out by itself, somehow it will actually throw an error. So you would need to do an invocation kw args to say that the temperature is undefined in order for the temperature to not be sent to the AI model when you do the call. So again, so that should continue. This is where the decision making comes in. So we'll check what call the last messages, what does this come, if it's coming from a tool call, then we'll make a tool call, but if it's not, then we'll make the end, so this will be the end of the agent. So essentially you should have something. Oh, actually, sorry, I skip ahead. Okay, so basically so then the AI model, so this is the decision. So you are a helpful AI assistant, so please find me someone that would basically fit to do this job, to build an AI, I mean to build a iOS applications. And then so after all these, then this is basically defining a graph. So there's something called add node. Add node is basically adding a something to so it always starts with a start node. The start node, what that does is the agent. So you give a name. And then for the edge, so what exactly is an edge? Not to be confused by this person. So for the $50 certificate, the first person who can tell me who this person is, I mean, not who this person is, the band this guy is from, will get the $50. So look like John is the first one. So John, I believe Adobe will get in touch with, oh, not in sync. Okay. Not so. I believe Adobe will get in touch with John to give you that $50 gift card. Okay. So not to be confused with this person, this is the edge from YouTube. An edge in an agent, it means a connection. It connects one node to the next. Okay. So basically, I add an edge. That would be the start and then to the agent. And what is an agent? The agent is that node. So so you can define uh, any way you want. For some people, they want to add all the node first, and then they decide, then they define the edge, how they are all connected. So in this case, I add a node that is called agent node, and there's a node called tools node. The start node is something that comes with, so you don't have to define what the start node is. The start is just basically the start of everything, but you define where start first. And then there's an edge, and there's also a conditional edge. The edge is something that you always go to, always be executed, but the conditional edges is something that depends on certain condition. And the condition, then you define the function that would decide how this edge would behave. So this is where the should continue comes in, which is what we had discussed early on. So then after all that, then basically you will have something like this. You have a start and then go to the agents node. The agent would call a tool node to call the database and so on and so forth. And then at some point, there will be some kind of decision making to say that, you know what, this is enough. Then we need to stop. When it stops, then we'll go to the end node, and that will stop everything. Okay. Okay. So to see that in action, so basically already have this started. Let me see. And so to start it again, okay, so now it's set that connected to the MongoDB Atlas and the server is running on port 3456. The port is just defined in the index.ts port, but you can define any port number you want. In my case, I just like 3456, easy to remember. Really doesn't matter. Okay, so now let's oh, okay, let's and to save time, I actually use command box to start up this an instance of ColdFusion 2025. So I know this is tiny. It really doesn't matter. So basically, in the index CFM, to begin with, I call this chat, which is the one of the endpoint that I created that would trigger everything. This is tiny, but please focus on. Let me expand that a little bit more. The things going on in right here. Okay. So I refresh that. So as you can see, it is making the tools call to call the AI agent, to call the agent. At some point, it has, because I don't want it to keep on going forever, I have only set it to go it like 10 times or something like that. After all, there are only 10 employees. So then after that, then it will give me the final answer, which is basically is analysis, the talent gaps, and different things. So now there's this thread ID to show you that this is actually, so then now to show that it is not calling the agent all over again. So basically I just here, then let's comment these out. Oh, yes. Okay. So basically, this is the another endpoint that I created with chat, but I specify the thread ID that I want to use. So in this case, this is the same ID, same thread ID that I'm using here. So now let refresh. Again, so this one, as you can see here, there's a refresh. Then it actually shows you different things here. The critical role missing these and that, but you do not see another series of employee lookup tool called all over again. That shows you that it uh, keep a history of the conversation. I mean, keep a history of the different decision making and all that. So then you can basically create different endpoints here. So in this case, I'm only using the chat and also the thread ID. So in your case, if you have some other purposes, you will add different endpoints here. And then, of course, you can modify your agents to do different things and to do what you want to do in your agent. And that would be the end of my, oh, actually, so these are the resources. So as far as the demo is concerned, that's the end of the demo. So here are the resources. And one of the things that I did not touch on, which is the LangGraph Studio. What happened is when your let me get back to my slide. And here, okay. In this case, there are only excuse me. There are only a few nodes here, but so it is you can probably even you don't write it down, or you can pretty much see that in your code. But sometimes when the agents get a little bit more complicated or a little bit more nodes, then it just merely looking at your code in, say, your VS Code or whatever IDE that you're using, it may get confusing. In, say, here, agents. So here, there are only a few nodes here, but let's say you get more and more nodes, then you have a long, long list of codes. So one thing that you can do is there's something called LangGraph Studio, which I will show you. Oh, wonderful. So basically, there's an graphic IDE. Right now, I started that using a Python, but they recently Chain, they allowed you to the ability to launch this same IDE using even though you're using a JavaScript or TypeScript to do your AI agent. So in this case, you can see your graph, and you can actually run the graph uh, within the studio, so you can do some debugging, and in case if things get more complicated, you can actually see how all these nodes are relating to each other. You can run the nodes. You can run different things, and it will show you the flow of the agent. So in case you are stuck with certain nodes, you can actually see what is going on in that node and do some debugging and all that. And so that would help you in your development with your AI agent as well. And then let's get back to, okay. So another resources would be, of course, go to langchain.com. And what we just talked about is MongoDB. Of course, if you want to use some other database for your vector stores, you're more than welcome to do so. Just now we used the LangGraph.js, so you can go to LangGraph.js to see to get more documentations on that, and these are the vector stores. And one of the other things that I forgot to mention was something called human in the loop, which is essentially what I intended to do for this current session, because I thought that there might be some people who had attended my Las Vegas session and might come here. I don't want them to hear essentially the same talk all over again. So I actually, as you can tell, in this sessions, I did not include something called human in the loop. Human in the loop, basically, you want to, for certain decision making, you may not want the agent to make all the crazy decisions for you. You may want at some point to have a human to view the decision to see whether it is acceptable. So essentially, what happened is, imagine that this in this AI tool called, at some point, let's say after the third one, you want to maybe include something here to break the chain, to break that call and ask the human, hey, is it okay that I use this person? And then let's say if you say yes, instead of starting all over again, it will actually continue on from wherever that is left off and continue making to continue the calling until whenever the end is met. So I did intend to include some kind of example of human in the loop in a new example, but due to my workload and different things, I did not get to finish that. So hopefully I will be able to put, and not in addition to this example that I just showed you guys, there will be one more example that actually has a human in the loop example, so you can see how human in the loop plays in AI agent. So after all these, then this is it. Any questions? You guys are all, I think that there's no questions. Well, thank you very much for coming to my session. Thank you. Or actually, are there any in the Q&A part?
No, I don't think there are any
Okay.
questions in the Q part.
Okay, wonderful. Okay then, well, thank you all.
Thank you, Monty. Thank you for the wonderful session.
And you all have a wonderful day.